Today I'm attempting the hardest possible rebuild in MLB The Show, starting with a team of 1 overalls on the Chicago White Sox, and the only way to improve the squad is by drafting players. This video has been recommended ever since I started doing YouTube, so there's a ton of pressure to build a champion, and as you can see, we are not off to a good start, allowing an inside the park home run. There is no reason to play games in this first year, but I jumped into opening day just to see how bad we are, as this broke up a perfect game, but as you can see, there is nothing for this team to celebrate about. My scouting strategy is to find a combination of guys who can contribute right now and in the future. So for pitchers, I want to find guys with high walks per 9, and then for hitters, I'm looking for high contact and plate discipline. I would be amazed if we didn't go 162-0, and even though there is a generational third baseman in this class, there's no chance we grab him because we're picking at number 5. Thankfully though, he is not the only option available in the first round, as our Discovery Scouts found a pretty good pitcher, and I'm also very intrigued by another third baseman, Henry Calderon, who's gonna come in with good potential. It's gonna be a few seasons until we're good, so I really don't mind investing in some projects as well, and I think this catcher, Dave Zito, is the perfect example of that. I'm not gonna waste any time jumping into this first draft because these players are gonna tell the story of so much of this video, so it's very important we get some good talent as the generational third baseman is gone. I was holding my breath when he didn't get selected in the first 2 picks, so as expected, we are not gonna be able to get him, which honestly is pretty expected, and I'm prepared for it. Our first pick of the rebuild is between 2 guys in Archie Nunez and Henry Calderon, and while Nunez is a better player right out of the gate, this game always seems to generate a lot of good pitching talent, so after consideration, I'm going to take Henry Calderon. With our next selection, I'm probably just going to take the best player on my board, which will more than likely be one of these starting pitchers. A lot of really good players went off my board in round 1, but thankfully for us, Glenn Hernandez is still here in round 2, so we're getting a very good value at pick 42. Then my next favorite player got taken 8 picks before us, so I'm already running out of options in competitive round B, so I'm thinking it's time to take more of a project player like shortstop Israel Cruz, who's definitely going to be a low overall, but come in with very high potential. I cannot believe how fast we ran out of scouted options since so many players were overdrafted, but in round number 3, one of the few players I scouted in Leo Cross is still on the board, and with several secondary positions, he's going to be my pick. This draft is not going my way so far, and honestly at this point, I'm just taking the best available players, as David Steadman looks like my best option, and he will be the selection. However, the silver lining is this was a very deep pitching class, and as I mentioned, a lot of these guys last until the end of the draft, especially if they're discovery players like Edgar Lantingua, who's gonna be my pick. That leaves one more selection where I could take another pitcher, but I just realized I completely forgot about Dave Zito, who is guaranteed to have 90 to 95 potential, and even though he's a massive project, I want to make him the last pick of this draft. I do not know how I feel about that, but no matter what, those are the players of the future, so we have to respect them, and at least we're getting a lot of blue. The real question we have to ask though is how high are their overalls, because in a rebuild like this, that actually matters, and Israel Cruz is certainly not ready to be a major leaguer. That is not a great pick, but at least Leo Cross and David Steadman are a lot better. But the real gem of this class though is Edgar Lantigua, who's immediately going to come in and be our ace. That is an excellent 5th round value, and then we close things out with Dave Zito, who's 45 overall. Don't get me wrong, this was a great draft class, but it could have been a lot better if I had just scouted Willie Guzman, who's immediately coming in with 73 overall and a lot of power. I cannot believe Eddie Gomez nearly got to our selection, and on top of that, one of my favorite 2nd round targets, John Diamond, got swooped up way earlier than expected, and he looks great. We just closed out a winless season, and after all that humiliation, nearly our entire team has decided to retire. This is very, very bad. After the worst possible season, I really hope the draft lottery shows us some mercy, as we have a 16.5% chance to get the number 1 pick, and the Angels jumped us. That could be the difference between landing a generational talent and not, and by the way, I'm not allowing myself to draft any Rule 5 players, so after being forced to fill our roster because of retirements, this is the squad going into Season 2. We are asking our 2 best rookies to lead this team, but we're gonna need some other guys to outperform their ratings because this roster is ugly. It is opening day against the same team that jumped us in the draft lottery, and that was undrafted rookie Darryl Corey getting the single, but now he's picked off immediately. That's unfortunate, but his speed makes him a great prospect for us, as here's our first ever draft pick, Henry Calderon. He is already the best contact hitter on the team, even though I just swung at a terrible pitch, so after one look, our offense is already as bad as I expected, but so far, our 20-year-old ace is looking pretty good, getting Trout to chase and retiring the side. Now here's 3rd round pick Leo Cross, who may be the 2nd best hitter on the team, and he's showing why immediately with a home run on on his first major league at bat. How about that for a warm welcome to the show, as he took advantage of a breaking ball left in the zone. His power ratings are in the 30s, but it clearly doesn't matter, as we have a 2-run lead on opening day, at least until Jock Peterson goes deep to tie it up. We're asking a lot of Edgar Lantigua, because he was just drafted this July, but he's already called on to be our ace, as Calderon almost got on base. All these young guys are far from finished products, but you can still see the potential, as Leo Cross just got his second hit of the day, and after another run cut the Angels lead to 1, Henry Calderon delivered a single up the middle to tie the game on his first career hit. That was such a clutch play with a full count, and now Lantigua retires the side, so I cannot believe we actually have a chance to win this game. I expected a quick opening day, and honestly the only reason I jumped in was to preview our team, but we are locking them down. I don't know why I didn't do this video sooner, because I'm having a great time, but once Lantigua left the game, they immediately scored 5 runs off our bullpen, so in the end we took the loss. I still really enjoyed seeing flashes from Edgar Lantigua, and that Leo Cross home run was phenomenal, so I'm very excited to see what this team becomes, especially since 4 members of our first draft class are already top 100 prospects. We have a chance to win our first game of the video against Oakland, as we're tied in the 11th inning, but as you can see, it is so difficult to make any contact. Our bullpen ruined our chance to win on opening day, but we just gunned down Ruiz, so now a walk-off is much less likely as Verdugo flies out to end the inning. We need to score because we can't hold them forever, but our players are so bad that they miss the ball even when I swing on time, and just like that, Oakland has walked it off. That loss might have killed the only ounce of hope I had for this season, so I'm turning my attention to the MLB draft, where thankfully, even though we're picking at number 2, I am seeing 2 pretty viable first round options. After scouting both of them, I would prefer Xavier Zachary, but honestly, either one works, as I'm just looking to add some offense to a team that desperately needs it. Cross going the other way in extra innings, that gets down to score the go-ahead run. While Cross has definitely delivered when we've watched him this year, he is not playing well at all to start the season, and it's certainly unfortunate because I don't want to send him down, but I'll do it if I have to. Unlike our last game against the Athletics, our offense scored in extras, so we're on our way to finally securing our first win, and there it is. It took a while, but the Chicago White Sox have finally won a baseball game, as we went on to finish the first month 8-23. Of course, we still have a long way to go, but this is a solid foundation for season number 2, especially with Henry Calderon leading the way. And it's the same story in our pitching rotation, where everybody basically sucks except for Lantigua, and for this season, that's all that matters. Outside of just the guys in the first round, I found a very intriguing catching prospect in Jared Sandoval, who may not seem amazing based on that potential range, but that contact and discipline is right where it needs to be. I'm gonna keep looking for these high floor players, because even though they're not gonna bolster our farm system, we do need talent right now, but I'm also very curious if our hot streak continues, as we're down 1 to Seattle. However, we've really struggled to score runners on base, and we're nearly out of chances in the 9th inning, but this is hit well. Will it be able to drop? I don't think it will. He turned on that slider, but there was too much air under it, and here is a game-ending double play, so we stalled out in another close game. It seems winning 5 games in a row was simply a fluke, as we're 12-47 to start June, so I've decided to jump all the way to the MLB draft. I have a very simple plan here, as Xavier Zachary is my number 1 target, but if the Angels snipe him right in front of us, I'm gonna go with Timmy Hagen. This is the moment of truth, as I'm asking the game for a huge favor. Los Angeles took neither of them. Xavier Zachary looks like an amazing hitter. He's gonna be the easy selection here. Thank you, Los Angeles. My number 1 round 2 target is Willie Curran, but there are a lot of picks to go before we can get him, and while that would be an insane value, I am not expecting him to fall, as sure enough, he went at number 11 to Toronto, so even though I'm a bit disappointed, another arm fell in Garrett Campos, so I'm just gonna select him. I am perfectly happy with that trade-off, so now in round 2, I feel like I should take a position player, and the best one on my board is easily Ethan Friedman, who looks like he has amazing contact. That is a no-brainer for me. Now in round 3, I have 2 options and not a lot of time to make the decision, as I'm very interested in this contact-hitting center fielder, even though he has a much lower floor than I'm sure Christopher Stevenson has. This is a huge stumper, but I'm gonna go with Stevenson. I barely got that off in time. I need to be a little more decisive. I'm sure Infante is a good player, but a project starting pitcher with that potential is just too much for me to pass up. And to be honest, it might have been a good idea to take him, since the last players left on my board are all pitchers. That is the trap I always fall into, as we're ending the draft with Cesar Cortez, so we'll see how that draft unfolds, as it's the All-Star break, and this team is really not in good shape. We have the worst record in baseball at 19-78, and despite being our default All-Star representative, Henry Calderon has really slowed down. I can't expect too much from the rookie, rookies since I forced them into action, so at least Edgar Lantigua is having a pretty good season. So after a winless July, I'm officially calling this season a lost cause, so it's time to look at our draft, and that makes me feel better. Zachary's coming in at a 71 overall, which is going to be more than good enough with this skill set, and then we followed that up with a very good pitcher in Garrett Campos. Then as expected, our catcher Ethan Friedman is not a high potential, but that contact is going to make him a day one starter, so I'm super stoked about this pick. And despite my fears, Christopher Stevenson did not make me regret taking him. He has 94 potential and comes in at 63 overall. By the way, this is Timmy Hagen, so either player in the first round would have worked out, but the Nationals also drafted Anthony Infante, who's coming in with 75 potential, which I honestly wouldn't have minded because he has a very similar skill set to our catcher. After Stevenson, we closed our draft with a project outfielder with some power, along with two pitchers who I'm very excited about. We would finish 29 and 133, and while our offense was once again terrible on paper, we cannot complain about a 29 game improvement. Players like Lantigua and Calderon give me a lot of hope for the future, but now they're also joined by a brand new draft class featuring number 2 pick Xavier Zachary. I'm pretty nervous for the draft lottery because last season we got screwed out of the number 1 overall slot, so I'm really hoping that does not happen again as we are simulating forward, and you've got to be kidding me, we are once again at number 2. That is unfortunate, but on the bright side, it could have been a lot worse, and that was the only thing to do this offseason, so we're already in season number 3. In a video like this, we need to extend our young talent, so I'm offering some pre-arb extensions, starting with Leo Cross, who's going to accept a 6-year, $11 million deal. I wanted to do the same thing with Henry Calderon, but as you can see, we can't afford the contract, and the very ridiculous reason for this is your future payroll can never exceed the current year's. Opening day is against the Royals, and I'm really hoping we get another good year from Edgar Lantigua, but unfortunately, he just gave up a run. No need to panic yet because it is only 1 run, and now we get to see the first at bat for Xavier Zachary, but that did not go according to plan. We still don't have our first hit, but that all changes in the 3rd inning when Steve Hinkle gets a hold of this one into the right center gap for an easy triple. Unfortunately though, we could not score him, but at least Zachary gets his first MLB hit, and hopefully there's many more where that came from for the number 2 overall pick. After failing to score a man on third, we have loaded bases, and Darryl Corey's now on his 12th pitch of the at-bat, but grounds out to Bobby Witt to end the inning. At least Lantigua is having a good game, but there's no doubt this is some of the worst run support I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm a Mariners fan. We're in danger of wasting a gem from our ace, but here's Henry Calderon, so we have 2 aboard, and I'm not going to be happy if we waste another opportunity. Run, Leo, beat out the throw, let's go. Once again, the bases are loaded, but our rookie catcher is already behind in the count, and you've got to be kidding me. We have stranded 8 runners on base today, so even though we're out hitting the Kansas City Royals, we have nothing to prove for it, but at least Zachary gets on base again. They finally decided to pull Brady Singer, and Zachary's taking off for second base. It's close, but he is gunned down. I tried a bunt to get him in scoring position, but that did not work. So despite a 3-hit, 1-run performance from Lantigua, we took a very hard loss. However, in our next game, we're tied up in extras against the Houston Astros. We couldn't score in the 10th inning, and even though our bullpen sent us to inning number 11, our offense is still really bad. This game would go all the way to the 13th inning, where we finally got a runner at third thanks to a sac fly. So we're in position to pull off a suicide squeeze. The runner didn't steal, but it is not gonna matter. He is in there, and we win the game. We're taking our first look at this draft class, and there are 3 outfielders at the top that I'm very interested in, starting with Estevan Ramirez, who is the number 1 projected player, and for a very good reason. After a week of scouting, he's the undisputed number 1 player in the class, but since we're picking at number 2, we're probably not gonna get him, so I need a backup option. In the first 3 weeks of the season, we only have 3 wins, but we're looking for number 4 against Oakland, as we have a 1-run lead in the 7th inning, and we're looking to add to it with a huge double. Even though that didn't score a run, Leo Cross dribbles this one up the middle for his 3rd hit of the day, and our rookie 2nd-round pitcher Garrett Campos is very close to the shutout. We definitely can't expect such a young team to win so many games right now, but it's still been very fun watching our draft picks flash their potential. Don't get me wrong though, it would still be very nice to average more than 1 win per week, as we're in a close game against the Guardians, and we just tied it up, but here comes the suicide squeeze perfectly down the line to give us the lead. That absolute piece of art could give us the lead, but unfortunately, Stephen Kwan just hit a 2-run shot, so this could end up being a very premature celebration as Leo Cross almost got robbed of a base hit, but thankfully the throw came in offline, and now Xavier Zachary drives in the tying RBI. The top of our lineup is definitely starting to get hot, but the same cannot be said for the rest of it, and that could end up being the advantage for the Guardians as they just hit a grand slam, so we clearly still have a lot of work to do. We We are 5-27 at the end of the first month, and even though looking at the stats, it seems we've taken a step forward, we're actually on pace for a worse record than last year. At least Stevenson's having a good rookie year at pitcher, because his development is very important for our future success, as he's the #1 prospect in baseball. We're trying to bounce back against a team that we have a pretty good record against, the Washington Nationals, as Calderon drives in the tying run. So it seems we're going back to extra innings unless Calderon can get this to drop. Come on, it is run down. We've been in extras a lot lately, and that's only because we've struggled to score runs, but in the 10th inning, Xavier Zachary, the 2nd overall pick, is gonna walk it off. That was also our first series sweep of the video, so we're heating up, and really a lot of that has to do with the play of Xavier Zachary and Ethan Friedman, along with a very improved rotation. It's the start of June, and we're already closing on our win total from last year, so even though we're still the worst team in baseball, I will take the progress. Now we're looking to rally, down 1 against Oakland, but unfortunately we blow it, so even though we're winning more games, we're still not consistent. We are still waiting on win number 20, going into a series against the other Chicago team, as we're tied up at 1 apiece in the 7th inning. The bottom of our lineup remains an automatic out, so getting more players who can start day 1 is a priority in the next draft. There are 2 aboard in the 9th, and now the bases are loaded, so here comes our signature suicide squeeze. That does not look very good, but it's gonna drop, and the game is over. We have not hit a home run in game all season, relying on gimmicks just like that one, but regardless, this is another improved year, as we're 20-44. This draft is gonna be entirely about need, but Estevan Ramirez is still no doubt my #1 player, but like I said earlier, there is no way Colorado passes on him, so I'm fully prepared to take Mariano Guzman, who might not have very good potential, but he's got great power, which we need. It is time for the Rockies to break our hearts by selecting the one player I've had my eye on, but they go with the closer. You've got to be kidding me, man. This game makes absolutely no sense, but there's no room to complain when Estevan Ramirez is still on the board, and I am not hesitating. He is our first round selection. What even just happened? Real shout out to MLB The Show for helping us out. And now in round 2, I'm going with a first baseman that our scouts are pretty high on, because that is a real position of need. Let's pull the trigger. I wanted to grab a closer, but they all went off the board. And now we're in CB round B, and I do know we have a lot of starting pitchers already, but there's no reason we can't grab another one to come out of the bullpen, especially at this value. Christopher Dolly, welcome to the team. Just like Bill Hurt, I found another player with a high floor in Willie Merced, and because our scouts are high on him and we need a starting second baseman, I'm pulling the trigger. Now in round 4, I'm debating between a starter that I can turn into a reliever or addressing another position of need with right fielder Joe Tompkins, who has very good contact, and actually looking at that, I don't even know why I debated this pick. That's an easy selection. Unless you're drafting a closer, taking a reliever doesn't make much sense, so I tend to go with starting pitchers instead, and that is exactly how we're going to end the 3rd draft of this video. While I think a lot of those players aren't going to have the highest potentials in the world, the most important thing is they can come in and help our team compete as soon as possible. It would be a huge jump, but I want to see if we can get to 60 wins on the season, because that would be awesome, and we could be on our way to another one after taking the lead to the Yankees, but of course, we still need to close them out. I'm holding my breath as we're up against Aaron Judge, but thankfully we managed to strike him out, so unlike the teams we usually beat, the Yankees are actually pretty quality, so this is a good victory. To start August, we are 36-76, and as you could have probably guessed, our offense is still really bad, but at least our young talent's improving, and there's at least something to look forward to for the future. Then we're also getting some valuable reps for guys like Christopher Stevenson and Edgar Lantigua, so the future is bright. Speaking of the future though, it is time to take a look at our brand new draft class, and there it is. Estevan Ramirez is coming in at 80 overall. Right off the bat, he is already looking like a 5-tool guy who's gonna come in and be our highest overall player straight out the gate, and while we didn't get as many blue potential guys as last year, I'm seeing a lot more players who can come in and start right away, which was exactly what we were looking for. I think an extra innings game against the Dodgers could be the perfect way to wrap up the season, as Zachary gets this one to drop for the go-ahead run, so I know it's very limited context, but maybe this team can finally turn a corner, and that is not exactly what I meant, as Will Smith is gonna walk it off. Something about beating the Dodgers was too good to be true, but I'm still proud of this team for getting pretty close, as they just swept the Angels, and now they're on a bit of a win streak, which helped us finish the season with 58 wins. I know that's not a lot, but it's gonna be better than the White Sox in real life, and with the way we started our season, I am very content with this performance overall, especially because we somehow won that many games without having a single hitter above 700 OPS. I'm kind of confused though, because looking at our starting pitching, they also were not very good outside of a couple guys, so it's truly a mystery the worst scoring offense in the league was only the worst team in baseball by 3 games. We've been the worst team in baseball every single season, but we still have not gotten the #1 pick, so I'm hoping that changes in this draft lottery as we get knocked down all the way to 5. At least in the past couple years, we've been able to take guys like Estevan Ramirez and Xavier Zachary, but now this season, if there's a generational player in the class, we're not gonna get him. I am really hoping this is the last year we're the worst team in baseball, because on paper, this team has improved so much as we added 4 new bats to our lineup along with 2 new pitchers. It's opening day against a very talented Guardians team, and our new offense has the very tough task going against Shane Bieber. I was hoping for some improvement, but he has a shutout going through 5 innings, as our entire offense only has 1 hit today, including our new best player, Estevan Ramirez. This is not at all how I wanted our season to start, but rookie Bill Hurt just hit a double off of Bieber, so even if we lose this game, at least one of the rookies did something, as this one is not getting through. Our pitching kept us in this one all game long, but Bieber went 9 innings for the shutout, so that was not a good way to start the season, as we just got swept, which means we're still looking for our first win of the season in this series against the Yankees. We absolutely cannot go winless to start the year, because that would kill all the hype I built in the offseason, so I'm fortunate that bunt managed to work because it put 2 on board for Joe Tompkins, who somehow drops this in. That loads the bases for Henry Calderon, but as we've seen so often, he's gonna strand every runner on base. In this video, we've gotten way too used to disappointment, as it seems no matter how good of contact we make, we cannot get anything to drop. This is another example. We are just 1 out away from another loss, which is very frustrating, especially considering our pitching only gave up 1 run. Turning our season around all starts with our offense not leaving runners in scoring position, and I really thought that adding 4 new bats to our lineup would make a difference, but it certainly has not. We have not scored a run in any of the games I've jumped into so far, but 3rd time's a charm as Merced the rookie finally delivers. But even then, we're down by 2 runs to the Tigers, and just like always, we have stranded the runner. That was a meatball slider right down the middle, so I really don't know what to do, because we're 1-7 to start the year, and on paper, contact is supposed to be one of our only strengths, but we're really struggling to put the barrel on the ball. If we can't beat the Athletics, I really don't know where this season is going, so thankfully the rookie Bill Hurt goes the other way to take the lead. So even though it's taken several series, our offense is finally waking up in these late game situations, and I know it's Oakland, but a win's a win. This draft is going to be a little more interesting since we have the #5 pick, but at least I found a pretty solid hitting prospect who could be available when we select. And I know in other draft classes, I've been thinking about what our team needs, but I think this may be the first time we're really looking for the best player available. Meanwhile, we're trying to get our season back on track with a sweep against Washington, and here's an RBI from Estevan Ramirez, who is certainly still figuring things out at the MLB level, but he has flashed his potential. Now I'm going to try out a suicide squeeze, which as you know does not always work for me, but this time we pull it off. So at least for now, we have a 2-run lead, and finally our offense is getting going. This is what we've wanted all along. It always seems we perform against the Nationals, and I feel like I was just talking about Ramirez, so it is very fitting that he goes yard in the 9th inning. I'm not gonna lie, that mustache is extremely goofy, but the power is on display. So for the first time all season, I think that's the offense we've been waiting for. After another series win, it seems we've got our confidence back, but now we have a very challenging rematch against the New York Yankees. This team just swept us, and now they tie the game, so we are once again calling on our offense to step up, and Ethan Friedman, the catcher, does exactly that with a 2 RBI single. That was a huge victory against a team that beat us just a few weeks ago, as we have surged back from a rough start, winning 8 out of our last 10. Our offense has been such a huge key to this season turnaround, because rookies like Willie Merced, Estevan Ramirez, and Bill Hurt are all heating up, and we're gonna need some more of that magic. Down 1 against the Red Sox as Corley tries to steal 3rd. He is in, but the throw is offline, and that is gonna send him home. Our offense had to do nothing to tie this game, which certainly takes a lot of pressure off of them, as we can now win it in extra innings, and I really should not have swung at that, but once again, it's an offline throw that wins us the game. 2 crazy plays in a row just gave us that victory, so our season's still in pretty good shape, going into a series against Minnesota, and there is no way. Down 1, Leo Cross hits a go-ahead home run. This man is known for his contact skills, but apparently he has sneaky good power, because he just went deep off of Johan Duran for a game-winning shot. This is hands down the best record we've ever had, and a huge reason we're in this position is because of the continued success of our rookie bats, as if you remember, Estevan Ramirez took a little bit of time to find himself, but ever since hitting that no-doubt home run, he has been on a roll. We also simply have a lot more options at pitcher now, so even though a few guys are not off to a good start, the rest of the rotation really balances it out. I really don't want to jinx anything, but right now we are on pace to make the playoffs, which is insane, because just 3 seasons ago, we had 0 wins with a team of 1 overall Joe randoms as Estevan Ramirez extends his hit streak to 12 games. The rookie number 2 overall pick has been everything we wanted, and now he's gonna get a free pass to home plate, which was the one play that made all the difference as we beat a very good Texas team. So far this month has been full of wins, so I'm very curious if we can keep this hot streak alive, as here is another series win against Minnesota, which helped us end the month of May in first place in the AL Central. This is very impressive, but we need to keep our foot on the gas against the second place Royals, who are right on our tails, and right on cue, there's a 2-run double. That gives us a 1-run lead, but now we're looking for more, getting Tompkins to third base, and since there are still 0 outs, we're laying down the suicide squeeze, which once again works. Our speed on the bases gives us an advantage in any game we play, and now Ethan Friedman late in this one launches a double, so we're in position to add another run, and Darryl Corey is going to do exactly that with another one. That is a huge victory against our biggest threat in the AL Central, and because this is such an important series, I'm playing the whole thing as we have taken the lead in the 8th inning. That was a very clutch play with 2 outs, and now here is another one. So after stranding so many runners at the beginning of the year, our offense has completely fixed this problem. We just swept a very good Royals team, so now we have a 2-game division lead, and even though I expected to improve, I did not expect to be a playoff team, but we have a very good young core. We're approaching the All-Star break, and therefore the MLB draft, which is going to give us the chance to add even more players to a team that already is in very good shape. We are picking at number 5 overall, and the number 1 player on my board is Demetrius Charles, just because he's an amazing hitter, but more than likely he is gonna be gone by the time we pick. So even though I never do this and laugh at teams that do, I'm prepared to take a closer at number 5. We've gotten very lucky 2 years in a row with our number 1 target staying on the board, but unfortunately that's gonna come to an end this year as Demetrius Charles is a New York Met. Once again, I cannot believe I'm doing this, but I really don't like any of the other hitters I scouted in round 1. So with our first pick in this year's draft, I am taking closing pitcher Preston Olson, who looks ridiculous. I did scout some closers and relievers this year, and I wanted to draft another with our next selection, but as you can see, there is only 1 closer left on my board, and I did not scout him. Even though I don't doubt he's still going to be a pretty good player, I'm going to go with the safe selection in first baseman Darren Fontenot, because as you can see, he is a great hitter, and we could always use another one. I am breaking my entire draft philosophy by drafting relievers, but really there's no choice at this point in the rebuild. And now in round 3, I'm tempted to go for another one, but Brian Mays is too good of a value to pass up. Now I'm taking Salvador Castilla, who has great walks per 9, and in round 5, I am drafting my 4th bullpen arm. That's a record for me. We are 60-38 at the break, and looking at our offense, it is very easy to see why, as the rookies are still going off, as Bill Hurd is leading our team in home runs, and Estevan Ramirez is looking like everything we wanted him to be. As always, our bullpen is very hit or miss, but it looks like the hits are finally starting to outweigh the misses, especially with Edgar Lantigua making his first All-Star appearance. I thought we would have more representation like Henry Calderon and Estevan Ramirez, but once again, we only had 1 guy make the game. That is going to be great motivation for this team to show the league that they deserved a lot more recognition than that, but they're down to their last out, down 1 against Detroit, but thankfully Ramirez smokes this to the shortstop and is able to beat out the throw. That was a very clutch play with 2 outs, and now we're gonna win it as Ethan Friedman keeps this fair down the line. So what a great comeback walk-off win for the White Sox. That is another come-from-behind win for Chicago, but now they're gonna need another one as they tie it up against the Dodgers. Beating a team like Los Angeles would officially make me very excited for the playoffs, as we have just taken the lead, and honestly, if you had told me we'd be in this position at the beginning of the year, I would have thought you were crazy. We have become the most exciting team in baseball, and at the end of July, we have a 5-game division lead taking on the second-place Twins. We have a 1-0 lead, and now a suicide squeeze will score another, but we may not be done with 1 out and runners at the corners as Calderon scores number 2. It seems there is nothing stopping our offense, which suddenly has put it all together as Tompkins launches this one to the wall, and this will go all the way back for an RBI double. Our season turnaround started against another division opponent in the Royals, so this is very fitting as we continue to prove we're the best in the AL Central. We are 70-44 to start August, and it is crazy to think that we could be even better next year. Depending on how our draft looks this season, let's jump in, and there it is, Preston Olson. I'm glad we drafted him. I decided to address our bullpen at the best possible time because he looks like a monster, and even though my top target Demetrius Charles is better on paper, I think it might have worked out because with our second pick, we grabbed Darren Fontenot, who may not be 82 overall, but he's still very good at 75. Then I took pitchers for the rest of the draft, and honestly, I am not seeing a lot to be impressed with here, as basically all of the relievers we drafted are pretty underwhelming. It's definitely unfortunate too, because we could have had Roberto Mejia, Garcia, who's coming in with 84 potential at 70 overall. So even though this entire draft class was not very deep, I'm a bit disappointed and feel like we could have done better. Entering August, we have a huge rematch against the Cleveland Guardians, and I know they embarrassed us by shutting us out on opening day, but we are a brand new team and we're here to prove it. It feels like we just keep finding ways to win, and the best part of that is this team has a lot of room to grow, and this core is under contract for a long time. However, now we have a very tough series against the defending champs, and of course, we're pulling off a suicide squeeze, because that play might be the biggest reason we're winning games. As we're tied up in the 7th inning, at least until Xavier Zachary gets a hold of this sinker and sends it to the freaking moon. We are not a home run team, so it feels amazing when we do get a hold of this one, as this is number 2 going foul. That was just inches away from putting this game on ice, so our lead stays at 1 run in the 8th inning, but Calderon just put runners at the corners, so you already know it is time for the Chicago special suicide squeeze to give us a 2-run lead. I did not think we were built for the playoffs just yet, but this is a huge confidence boost, and I guess we're about to find out how good we are because we just won 95 games. To no one's surprise, Estevan Ramirez is the Rookie of the Year, with Bill Hurt and Christopher Dolly right behind, so there's no doubt that we have a lot of young talent, but I'm very curious if they're ready for the bright lights of the playoffs. We're gonna find out in the ALDS against the Yankees, as we're already up by 1 run, and there's a home run for Rory Quinn, so it's very nice to see our offense holding its own, even though the Yankees struck back with 2 more. We just left 2 runners on base though, and now our bullpen is selling away this game, as they've given up 5 runs in the past 2 innings, so we just blew our chances of winning this game, even though Ramirez makes it interesting. But in the end, our bullpen let us down. Game 2 is working out a little bit better for us, as we have a 1-run lead, at least until Joe Tompkins goes deep. That was a great bounce back win to tie the series, so we are rising to the occasion, but we're down by 3 runs. Another bunt scored 1, but this is not good, because they would extend their lead before Friedman came back with a 2-run shot. This is a real shootout, and Friedman just went yard again, so in a complete miracle, we have a tie game, and of course, here comes the suicide squeeze. Death taxes and laying down beautiful looking bunts, as we just scored another run, so after leading by as much as 3 runs, we have made the New York Yankees the bunt of the joke. It really felt like there was no path to victory, but Ethan Friedman became a hero with a multi-home run game, so we are just 1 win away from moving on to the ALCS, and we already have the bases loaded with 1 out, so you know what it's time for. I know it might seem a little cheesy to keep running that play, but it's really the best thing to do in that spot. And then Leo Cross followed up with another 2 runs before they left this slider right in the zone for Bill Hurt, who launches it over the wall. Just like they did, we put together a 4-run first inning, but they followed up with 3 more before tying things up in the 4th inning. So very similar to last game, we have another shootout on our hands, as we took the lead and then added another run, so we are 1 out away from the ALCS. This bullpen always makes me nervous, but there's a fastball up and in, which officially wins the White Sox the series in 4 games. I did not see that coming. The youngest team in baseball has shocked the New York Yankees, but now we have the very scary task of taking on the Baltimore Orioles. This team has so much young talent, and they're already showing it, and even though our offense is getting on base early on, we just stranded 2 runners. Playing against this much firepower could get very bad very fast, but we did take the lead, and then Estevan Ramirez went yard, so our offense continues to bail us out, as this will come down to the 9th inning. I am terrified because we're facing Gunnar Henderson, but we got him up and in, so we survived game 1 against Baltimore. That was a great start for Edgar Lantigua, but unfortunately, the rest of our pitching staff is not nearly as good, so we lost the 2nd game 8-2. The lack of experience with our starting pitching was my biggest concern coming into the playoffs, as we're losing by 3 runs at least until Calderon goes yard. Every time I'm ready to say we're out of a game, someone comes up with the play of their life as we're going to extras, and there's no question Henry Calderon's the only reason we're here. This feels like one of those crazy games that could go for like 13 or 14 innings, as Tompkins just started the 11th by beating out a throw to first base, and now he's gonna steal second. We really need him to become the go-ahead run, as Friedman drops this one into right field, diving, Kerstead cannot get it. That very lucky break is gonna give us the lead, and now we are able to close them out, and I still don't understand how we won this game. It is time to take advantage of having the series lead, but unfortunately, we stranded runners and gave up a solo shot, so after a rough offensive game, Baltimore has tied the series. Now I'm very concerned that our good luck has run out, as we're being shut out 4-0 at least until we put up 5 runs in the 6th. This has been the story throughout the playoffs, but this offense certainly never quits, as they find their way out of even the worst situations, and if your team is not in the playoffs, there is no doubt you should become a Chicago White Sox fan, because this is a Cinderella run. As you can see, I'm basically simulating, so it's not a difficulty issue, and I'm just surprised as you are because as you can see, we are not a very high overall team at all. We are one win away from going to the World Series, and there's 2 home runs, so we started out with a great 2-run cushion before Baltimore came back to tie the game, but here is the go-ahead run. I think our performance just goes to show that overall rating does not matter at all in MLB The Show, as Estevan Ramirez just hit his 2nd home run of the game, and you better believe this game is over, and the Chicago White Sox, 4 years after going 0-162, are going to the World Series. I did not see this coming, especially in season number 4, but honestly, 3 players in Ethan Friedman, Henry Calderon, and now Estevan Ramirez have made the difference between being eliminated and playing for the World Series. I want to celebrate, but we're taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is never a fun time, and if you remember, we beat them in a series this year, so they're looking for revenge, except we strike first. To my surprise, rookie Luis Mota is putting on a show, but then he gave up 2 home runs, so I really apologize for jinxing him, as Los Angeles now has the lead and we just stranded 2 runners. We have been great in the playoffs, but it seems like our magic is running out as we never recovered from blowing that lead. Shohei Ohtani's on the mound for game 2, so I do not have a lot of confidence, as sure enough, he pitched a complete game shutout. It's been a good run, but there is no chance we win this series, as our underdog story ends with a World Series sweep. On the bright side though, I never expected to make it that far, and now we have a huge reinforcement coming in Preston Olson. So with another year of development to our young core, along with a brand new bullpen, I think next year could be an even better season. Just like last year, we're starting off against Corbin Burns and the Twins, and if you remember, they shut us out last year, so we're gonna find out real quick how legit this offense is. Minnesota strikes first with a solo shot, but it didn't take long for our 9-hitter Joe Tompkins to tie it. This is already 1 more run than we scored last year, and Henry Calderon just smoked that one right at the shortstop for another. So in the 9th inning, we're calling on rookie closer Preston Olson. I felt weird taking him at number 5 overall, just like you probably did, and maybe this is why Matt Wallner already has a home run today, and he's gonna launch this double into right center field. That is not a good start for the rookie, but at least he has another run cushion, and you've gotta be kidding me, Jose Miranda is gonna do the same exact thing, so our lead is gone. I cannot believe we're in extras after Olson allowed a pair of 2-out doubles, but today's hero, Joe Tompkins, strikes first in the 10th, and last year's closer, Zach Goldberg, retired the side to secure a very not pretty opening day win. On the bright side though, we did really bounce back after that, surging to a 21-6 record in the first month. However, now we have a huge World Series rematch against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and even though we lead by 2 runs, Shohei Ohtani is going deep to put his team out in front. This type of star power is the reason they swept us, so I'm very nervous about falling short once again. Even though we have 70 wins at the break, it might not even matter, but I still have a lot of hope for the postseason because of how our team is developing. Our first rounders, Estevan Ramirez, Xavier Zachary, and Henry Calderon all look like stars, and then the rest of our team is pretty well rounded, but I truly think the play of our starting rotation has me most excited about the future. Also, no need to worry about Preston Olson's rough opening day because he's starting in the All-Star game, and with these numbers, he more than deserves it. Even then though, our bullpen is still the weakest link, so I went ahead and did something crazy, drafting 2 closers, and it seems they're both very good. We finished the year with 109 wins, which is absolutely awesome, and the huge surprise with this is Xavier Zachary placed 2nd for MVP, while Luis Mota was a Cy Young finalist. On top of that, Preston Olson won Reliever of the Year with 57 saves, so it took some development, but we finally have the star power we've been waiting for. We're taking on Seattle in the ALDS, and so far their pitching has been a huge problem for us because we have just 2 hits on the day, so we really need to get something going. There are 2 outs with runners at the corners, but unfortunately All-Star Estevan Ramirez flies out deep, so even though we scored in the 9th inning, we lose game 1. We're already down 1-0 in the series, so it's time to bust out our legendary suicide squeeze to take the lead, but after that, we still have 2 runners in scoring position, and here we go, that is a 2 RBI single. Just like last season, our offense bounced back after a game 1 loss, so we fully have the momentum going into game 3, which we win. Suddenly Seattle is facing elimination, and things are not looking good. Estevan Ramirez comes up with a 3-run shot, down 1 in the 3rd. The second-year outfielder has become the superstar of our team as he gave us a 2-run cushion, which would help us advance to the ALCS. We simply outmanned Seattle, so here's a rematch against Baltimore, and I'm a bit nervous for this series because we got really lucky last year, and we will need to bring our best effort. Lucky for us though, we're shutting them out, and here's a Henry Calderon home run. Our pitching rotation keeps surprising me as here's another shutout. So we have won 5 playoff games in a row, and we're looking for number 6. We're up 1-0 in the 3rd inning, and of course, here comes the suicide squeeze as we're up 2-0, and Baltimore's offense will not wake up. We've shut them out 3 games in a row, and this time they only got 1 hit, as our pitching rotation sent us to the World Series, where of course we're taking on the Dodgers. This is absolutely no surprise, and I wouldn't want it any other way, because even though they beat us during the regular season, we've improved so much, and we're ready to show them. We're starting with a 1-run deficit, but that's nothing a suicide squeeze cannot fix, and 1 inning later, MVP finalist Xavier Zachary gave us the lead, so we've already beat them more than we did last year. There's a great reason this team has gained the nickname the Suicide Squad, because the speed and contact in our lineup has made this play deadly, but I really can't say enough good about our starting rotation for holding it down. LA is supposed to have a super rotation, but we have far outplayed them, and it would be very fun to end this challenge with a revenge sweep. I'm gonna sim just 1 game ahead, which we win, so right now that sweep is looking very possible as we're scoreless through 5. Even in the 9th, both sides are refusing to score, so I cannot believe we're going to extras in an elimination game. I gotta say, I want this sweep so badly, and we're gonna get a runner to 3rd base, but there are 2 outs for Henry Calderon, and unfortunately he pops up. Thankfully for us though, both offenses have been completely useless, so it is still 0-0 in inning number 13, and here comes the suicide squeeze. Joe Tompkins beats out the throw. With runners at the corners, we're gonna run it back, but Calderon misses it, and that failed miserably. I'm honestly surprised that has not happened more often, but now Tompkins gets to 3rd, so Leo Cross has a chance to end it with 2 outs, and I feel like he's been so clutch this whole video. He just launched the go-ahead double. Now Los Angeles has to face the best closer in baseball, who has been lights out with the exception of opening day. He's facing Mookie Betts, but just made him look ridiculous, so it's very clear he is not gonna blow this moment, striking out Andy Pages to secure a World Series sweep for the Chicago White Sox. With that, I completed the hardest rebuild in MLB The Show, taking over a team of 1 overalls and rebuilding them entirely through the draft to win a pennant in 5 seasons. Thank you so much for watching the entirety of this video, and if you did enjoy it, please drop a like and subscribe because this was a blast for me, and if you do want to watch more of my content, you can click right here to see more.